All right, I think I did it. I don't know if I did it. I don't know who's there and who's not there. All I know is who's here and who's not here. And Mrs. Comic just flew in the front door. She's getting situated. Let's see if I can rock this thing. Here we go. So we're going to be a little sluggish on our hellos this evening. There, I think I did it. I did it. I'm back in the chair over here. Welcome, Remy Amish Comic here, streaming live from our living room, trying to make Tuesdays suck less, which so far isn't really working out that good for us today. Tuesday sucks kind of a little bit, but we've solved some stuff. Last Tuesday sucked, so somebody out there needs to start doing a show. Richter, I task you with this. Richter is watching uh, distracted driving on Route 78, so he won't be in the chat. And if he's in the chat, that means he's really fucking multitasking when he's driving. So somebody needs to form a show called Let's Make Raymond the Amish Comic and Mrs. Comics Tuesdays Suck Less. Also, Richter, word to the wise. There was a Mrs. Comic just dinged in here. That's her official ding coming in. Caesar's walking around, doesn't really understand what the fuck is going on here yet. Richter on 78. It should be cleaned up by now, but there was. It sounds like I'm making this up. There was a mushroom manure truck spill at 8 o'clock this morning. I have manure all over the place. I have no pictures ready. I'm freaking out. We've been stressed out and taking care of a lot of shit here. So the manure truck spill, the rumor has it is that a tractor trailer was somebody cut off a tractor trailer, and the tractor trailer was trying not to kill somebody who cut them off, and so the manure truck actually rolled over. I think that's a good choice, even though it was shut down for 3 hours. Enter around noon. We didn't know any of this. Mrs. Comic and I were going to put a battery in our daughter's car, and I definitely need help. I'll be talking about that later on. And so apparently the traffic got backed up again. I usually take the back way, but we wanted to get there quicker. So 78 came to a screeching halt, and Mrs. Comic was doing a little Googling, and apparently there was, I thought that they didn't do a good enough job cleaning up the manure from the 8 o'clock manure spill. And lots of people don't really know how to drive in manure. I am not one of those people. Fortunately, I did not have to drive in the manure. But Richter, if you're out there driving, for fuck's sake, listen to the show, watch the show, but watch out for manure on the road. It's kind of like an Amish farming version of black ice, which would be considered brown ice, but not really ice, brown goo. So there's what that's going on. I have, I would say that I have stories to tell, but it's mostly all fucking complaining shit. So I probably shouldn't tell the stories that are specific to me complaining about our lives, because the idea here is to entertain you. And even if the stories of my pain and suffering and the shit I have to solve entertains you, I don't know if I should be cashing in on my own pain and suffering. So I think I should think of more humorous kind of fun shit. So St. Patrick's Day apparently was Sunday. Mrs. Comic and I, as you know, we play Pokemon Go, and there was a Kyogre event. So I sprung, because I'm a big spender, but $4.99 each for a Kyogre event pass. If you don't play Pokemon Go, this will still make sense. Some of the creatures that you can catch are legendary. They don't come around often. And when they come around, they're actually sort of kind of mildly uncatchable. So you have to form alliances with other people as immature as Mrs. Comic and I to join gym battles. You need like 6 of these people, 6 nutballs in there, 6, 7. The more you have, the bigger the chance of catching these things. Now, if you team up with idiots, there's no way of knowing that. So what happened is this is Mrs. Comic is fierce. So she got 11 Kyogres, including 2 special colored ones. I did not get the special colored ones, and she didn't want to tell me, but I have a backup phone here so I can creep on her. I congratulated her on the 2 special lilac ones, and she said, I didn't really want to tell you about those because I caught them while you were in the giant supermarket, and I didn't want you to go nuts because I get real fucking pissy when everybody catches a Kyogre, but me. So the fun about us being bum, lazy, rich. It's kind of odd because I have no work this month. Should have been a great month, but it's such batshit balls were hanging on. Um, People have to actually drive around and park their cars to where these gyms are because you have to be within a certain location to get the pass to beam in there unless you got the pass. So we have our team. I'll tell you my handle. My handle is Hank's Pappy. Hank is our grandson, the cat. And so Hank's Pappy, I can't be Amish Comic because if people knew my real identity, probably they still won't know who I is, but that's beside the point. And so when you do these battles, and I'm good at the battles, I'm gonna kill the fuck out of any. I research more about how to kill these imaginary creatures than any actual work I did in any kind of research projects or any schooling or anything. I don't know why. Slash the fuck out of these things, but after the team gets it, the more people in the team, the faster the thing bleeds out. Then all the creatures you used to catch it need to be refueled, replenished. It's cartoon plasma is what it is. So you got to replenish all these things, but then you don't automatically get the creature. There's a special little, everybody's now on their own, and they give you like an amount of white balls, and you spin and you throw the white balls, and then you catch the Kyogre. Mrs. Comic got 11 and only lost 2, escaped her. Some people got none, and I wound up with 7, thank you very much, of which I actually only caught 3, and Mrs. Comic caught the other 4 because I was having panic attacks. So she caught a few of those for me. And so we kept trying to leave because I was out of ginger ale and I wanted to get some Guinness for St. Patrick's Day, which most Irish people would tell you going over to the giant supermarket to get Guinness is not really traditional. But we couldn't get out the door because we kept getting invites from our Pokemon Go friends that we don't actually really know. There's Diaper Dan is one. There's a King Rock and a Queen somebody or else. We don't actually know these people. But Mrs. Comic, she's this is a smart woman over here. We drove past 2 different gyms and we saw 3 different cars parked at stupid places that were closed because the gym was in there. And then we were like, that's our team, probably. And I don't feel any obligation to go over there and introduce myself as Hank's Pappy. And Mrs. Comic has a hippie handle, Sky Moon Stars. That's fantastic. So when I didn't get mine, at least I could know that I helped other people get theirs. And you could tell by our friend list who caught what. They're like, so and so caught a Kyogre and so caught an Eevee. So the person that caught the Eevee got fucked in a bucket of goo because they didn't get the Kyogre. So helping other people catch these things had to be some sort of reward. I don't really understand how I'm supposed to feel good about myself, but so that was a fun Sunday date catching these things. But every time we tried to get out the door, we got an invite from people that we didn't know, and we felt bad in case they didn't have their own Kyogre yet. Um, so we feel obligated to join the gym because we're fucking ass kickers. Every one of them fuckers that we joined, I think we kicked its ass, except possibly one. But the 1 or 2 that we lost, I think we were in with a bunch of nitwits that didn't put strong fuckers in there. So that tells you how silly and immature we are. So here we are. We made it to streaming live from my living room, making Tuesday suck less. And what you should know about me is our daughter texted me to help change a battery in her car. There's an argument to be made that she probably called the wrong person because Mrs. Comic would be better at doing that sort of thing. So what we had to do was figure out. I'm proud to say that I did not uh, have to watch any YouTube videos to see how this was done. Although I did call my mechanic to get some advice because we had to go to where the car was. And I was quizzing him about batteries, and he said batteries are batteries, just whatever battery you get. And I said, well, I have 3 boxes of Kirkland AAA batteries that I got over at Costco. If I could, can I tape those together and like wire them up? And he apparently was a little worried that I was that fucking dumb because that joke flatlined, and he was explaining to me that that was a bad idea. So we got all that kind of sorted out. I should have filmed me taking a battery out of a Pontiac Grand Am 2005, whatever it is, uh, because I struggled to figure out how to get the tools out of the toolbox. But in defense of me, it was cold. So, and then it was one of those wrenches where you got to reach it in there and turn the thing the right way, and then whatever they call them fucking things. So it didn't fit in there, and then it took me like 3 minutes to figure out that there was an extension piece to ram on that fucker to go in. In the meantime, this was at our daughter's work, as she works at marijuana dispensary. One of her co-workers came, and I already started screaming for help when she came out, and she said, should I go in there and get one of the crunk selling car guys? And we're, yes, by all means do this. But in the meantime, the fear of having another man help me do something manly, and that's sexist because women can fix fucking cars too. Uh, to get someone to help me do this thing, the fear of that made me try to figure the thing out. So we figured that thing out and swapped that battery in there. Now we're home. I've got some bourbon here tonight. I'm going to toast myself for accomplishing that which I suck at. Anything auto related. And Mrs. Comic's toasting too. And so that is a mild theme of this evening's show is cars that broke down, what we did about it, and that also would lead to car shopping. Now, one of the worst cars that we ever had was 2 different cars, Saabs. We got used Saabs. I'm not going to say from where. Saab was bought by GM, I think, and so because this is the fucking world we live in, this is going years ago. Saabs look really fucking cool. If you want to look cool, get yourself a Saab. But for fuck's sake, buy a new one, and when shit goes wrong with it, pawn it off. So when GM bought Saab, the Saabs that were on the assembly line just got pushed through, and they revamped the new Saabs owned by GM, and they eliminated the spark plug system, of which my Saabs that I got cheap because the guy had a Saab graveyard and he could put parts in there. But there's machines that you plug into the cars to tell you what's fucking wrong with them. There was no machine that could plug into the Saab that would say what was wrong with it, so they just had to fucking guess. So we got bankrupted on making guesses for Saabs. We dumped those fuckers. My mechanic I have now, Boyko in Emmaus, he's a rock star. But when I had the Saabs, when when I would pull that Saab in or have it pushed in, he literally would just quick fucking close up and put the went fishing sign on. The fuel pump. I know nothing about cars, but I know this. If you need a new fuel pump, right? It's fucking pain in the ass. It's like $150, $200, $300. Manly men or women mechanics who know how to fix them would say, "Oh yeah, we can handle that." The the fuel pump in the Saab is in the fucking gas tank. It's in the fucking gas tank. That's like building a ship in a fucking bottle and having the ship break and have to fucking go into the bottle somehow without fucking breaking it to fix the fucking ship. So I owed so much money on this used Saab that needed another $1,500 to fix the fuel pump that was in the tank that that's $1,500 is what I paid for the fucking car. So I absolutely refused. That was it. I was done. I'm going to scrap it. But I owed a lot of fucking money. And so this peckerhead found someone who could do that and was going to buy this car from them if I sold it to him for whatever cheap money. And I said, you got to fucking wipe out my entire bill and I will just fucking give you this car. And they didn't want it, but then they realized how fucking nuts it was that these cars actually still existed. So my extent of my car fixing shit is that's fucking nuts. And here's the other crazy fucking thing that happened to me with the Saab, because I had two different used ones. The timing belts, I don't know anything about anything, but the timing belt apparently is the equivalent, if something goes wrong there, pulling the brain out of a person and then just having it fall over and collapse. So, but before that collapse happens, I was on 287 in New Jersey, headed to a show at Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and you get a really fucking, you get an incredible drug-induced hippie light show on your dashboard. Every fucking light that could possibly goes off is flashing this way and that. I thought it was fucking some kind of Amish New Year's, and then all of a sudden, it all fucking shuts down. It goes dark, and then you stand there and wait and wait and wait. And we had triple. I was actually on the way home, and I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait, and then fucking the weird. I never remember what the weird thing is. The AAA. I think I rolled into a uh, one of those rest stops, New Jersey Turnpike rest stop. AAA tow trucks are not allowed to go save people in the Jersey rest stops. It's the dumbest fucking rule. So when I got there, when I called them up, they told me this on the phone, and then they gave me a number of somebody to call that wasn't AAA to tow me from the rest stop to a safe place where the actual AAA guy could fucking come. This is fucking now 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm texting Mrs. Comic. You won't fucking believe what's happening to me. Once we get back to Emmaus, we're gonna dump this thing down the other end of town, and I still gotta fucking walk home. So I am fucking mad. I am really fucking mad. The AAA couldn't find me. And I'm in the fucking dark, and I'm in New Jersey. I don't fucking know where I am. And they were saying, well, where are you? I don't know. It's dark, and there was a tree, and wherever the closest fucking rest stop is, that's where they fucking dumped me off here. And when the peckerhead pulled in, I was so happy to see him, and he goes, "Hey, you're the guy who got buzzed off America's Got Talent season 5 in like 1 second. I just saw that." So that was an additional kick in the balls to get that fucking car home. So when cars break down, though, it sucks. Bat shit balls. I got to burp. It's a burping night, which I would like to also toast our fabulous Subaru. Used Subaru, one of the most ass-kicking cars. We still love it. Our friend Jane from WZZO, she did backyard bands, um, sold us this car for a price that was really, really generous, and we couldn't really afford this car. And this was, I don't even know how many years ago, but we actually made the purchase over St. Patrick's Day. So St. Patrick's Day is like the anniversary of getting this car. She could not believe that I could actually hand her like $5,000 in cash. We were paying $7,000 for a car. It was worth 11 or 12,000. She was getting a new one, but she dinged the fender going slow into a garage to the car dealer and wouldn't fucking give her anything. Like they said, we'll give you $7,000 for this. So she said, fuck that, in a bucket of goo. I will sell this to my pathetically desperate Amish friend for $7,000, even though he doesn't have $7,000. She actually almost had a heart attack. I almost had to sign a notary that I could actually hand her $5,000. Those are the days when things were that was March, when March was really fucking good. So we love that car. That's the car that drove over a whole tree and didn't even really get a flat tire right away. So and the reason we love that car too is Jane had a similar car, and she was in such a horrible accident she didn't get hurt. And when you saw her car, it rolled over and it was like a fucking crumbled like in a Godzilla movie. And she didn't have a scratch on her, so she was smart enough to know that's a car that I should have died in, but I didn't. So she bought another one of those, and then we got this one because her father, I think, was peer pressuring her to get a new car, and so were we because we basically had no car. If you want to know how terrible it is to go car shopping when you have no fucking car, so we had to borrow our daughter's car, and she offered it. And then I was driving to work and all that shit for a couple weeks while we car shopped. We were over at the. I wanted a Subaru, but I couldn't find a fucking Subaru. And when Jane offered this, we can't fucking afford this car. So we went over to the Subaru dealer used lot, and the car salesman came over there, and I was pissing and moaning. We had a PT Cruiser at the time that was Smurf blue, and our daughter's so smart. I drove this thing to Florida, and it went to Niagara Falls. It went all these places. It got almost 200,000 miles on it, and it drove way faster than it should have ever driven. And when it died, we kept trying to think if we could patch it together. And our daughter said, that car did more for you than it was ever meant to do. So I complained to the car salesman that the problem with the PT Cruiser was they have the low profile tires, and when you drive over a pebble, it seems like someone hit you in the back with a baseball bat. Every fucking crack, everything, everything. I complained about this PT Cruiser to this guy, the salesman, for 10 solid fucking minutes, and I didn't have one good thing to say about it. And there were good things, but at the time I was really pissed. Well, he had the brass balls to show me a pimped out fucking gold PT Cruiser, and the tires are fucking flat. And he said, I said, didn't you just hear the fucking story I told you about how horrible this PT Cruiser? He was like, oh. so that shit's really, really fucking weird. Now I'm going back over cars in my entire life now. I had a Volkswagen Squareback, and the wheel wells rusted out, and mechanics, the body shops don't do body work. They're not going. You got to go to a body shop for that. And I didn't want to go to a fucking body shop because that's a couple grand for a used car. So in this town, somebody that I knew a race car driver with a garage over near the pond, who, and I knew who he was talking about because the garage is always open, and the motor's he's always fucking working on shit. There's always stuff going on there. They sent me there, and I pulled in, and I said, this car will not pass inspection because the wheel wells are rusted out. And he opened up the hood, and he looked at the wheel wells, and he goes, oh, that's easy to fix. You take this piece of sheet metal, and you just staple it in there, and it rips, it's there, and then you do one to the other side of there. Fantastic. When can you do it? He goes, oh, I don't have time to do it. You have to do it, America. I'm not really that good with cars. And he said to me, there comes a time in a man's life when he's got to be good with cars. And so it was at that point that I lost my manlyhood because I never really ever got good with cars. So I don't even remember how we solved that problem, but that was some crazy shit. And Mrs. Comic and I, when we were car shopping, we have all kind of fun stories. You have cars that you want. We liked Volkswagens. The old ones, the Squareback was badass, and we had a Volkswagen hippie bus, which I would fucking love to have that thing back. Even the Squareback would be amazing to have. So we went and we test drove a Volkswagen, I think Squareback, over in Allentown near the it was Rothrock at the time, but it wasn't them. It was just a house. And we went there, and the people the private deals, everybody's afraid you're going to kill them. When I show up, they were quite certain I was going to kill them. So we left at whatever car we had there, and they gave us the keys, and we drove the square back 6, 7, 8 blocks, and it fucking died. And so Mrs. Comic and I walked back to the house, knocked on the door. They were all ready to collect the money, and I said, "Here are the keys." And they said, "Where is the car?" I said, "I'm not exactly sure because we don't live around here." And so we went down that way, and we went over that way. And if you would like us to give you a ride to that car, I actually don't really feel comfortable doing that. So thank you for the test drive, and then we're fucking out of here. So that's another one that we didn't buy. Um, and then we have here on the Auto Mile, in my life, I love the Subaru so much. It's probably possibly my favorite, but there's two others that are candidates for being favorites. Volkswagen Bus, badass. What a fucking amazing vehicle that was. In 1997, my career was on fire, and Mrs. Comic and I bought a brand new Volkswagen Golf, which was kind of like their pimped out Rabbit, and it had a sunroof, which they call the moonroof. I don't know why they had to change it to moonroof, but to get to that Volkswagen dealer, Lehigh Street, the Auto Mile, I had been actually, we were looking at Hondas, and I had actually been thrown out of 3 or 4 different showrooms on the Auto Mile till we got, in fact, friends of ours. All right, this is great. Scott, my technician, my good friend who's in the Philippines, he had a brother, still has a brother, by the way, and he knew his friend sold Volkswagens over to Volkswagen dealership, and we could go online and we could, Richter, you made it. I hope he's not driving. Um, so we actually Googled around and we found a car that we liked. We didn't even see it, but we decided we'd love a Volkswagen Golf, and we thought we could possibly afford this car. So we walked in, we asked for the guy's name, and there was a navy blue Golf on the lot. We could have picked between a 15 disc CD changer or a moonroof. That's a fucking stupid pick. I don't know who would pick a CD player over a fucking moonroof. So I said, "That's the car I want. This is what I want to pay for it." He goes, "All right, that's no problem." Until I filled out the application for the loan to get the 1997 Volkswagen Golf, to where when the man said, "What is your occupation?" I said, "Stand-up comedian." And then he laughed and he said, "No, what's your real occupation?" "Stand-up comedian. Put it down. Fucking put it down. Put it down." Mrs. Comic had no employment. That's the only job I had. And he said we'd have a better shot if we tried to get it on a lease. And I'm fine with that because whoever leases cars and then they think they're not going to go over the miles is a fucking idiot. I knew I was going over the miles, but I was going to get the car, drive over the miles, knowing that we would eventually buy this car, and that's exactly what happened. So when that came through, was one of the happiest days of our lives. The guy Cole was even stunned. He goes, "I don't know how, but it went through." So you come over and pick up your 1997 Volkswagen Golf. Mrs. Comic's mother, who turned out to be one of my best friends of my entire life, here's Joyce. That went to here's Joyce. We were going to another family picnic, and she dumped a whole plate of tomato sauce on the back seat of a Volkswagen Golf that was probably not even a month old yet. And I can tell you this with the greatest sincerity, I didn't give a fuck. I really didn't. I felt blessed that we could have a car shit happens. I'm sure she felt bad. There was no, and also, like I said, at least it happened in the back seat, and I never ride back there. So what the fuck do I give a shit about that? So that's a true story. But now let's go back to me getting thrown out of auto showrooms on the auto mile. So we had it down between a Honda Civic, I think, and a Volkswagen Golf. We're trying to figure out what's what and who's who. So went over and we found the corresponding Honda Civic, and I wanted a price on it. They had no fucking prices on the window at all. And that's when I started to get pissed because I wanted to know how much this was. I gotta take it for a test spin. And then he went in, he said, I gotta go talk to my manager. I said, You have to go in to your manager and see if I'm allowed to know how much this fucking car is. So that fucking lit me already. That just fucking lit me. So they were having a sale on the next one up, which I don't remember what it was, the Accord probably. So he said, I'd like you to go out and take a test spin on the Accord, and then we'll give you a price on the one that you're not driving. And then I really went fucking nuts on there. So you're not allowed to give me a price on this car, and you'd actually like me to drive a different car, of which you won't be giving me a price on that car. You're going to give me a price on the car that I'm not allowed to fucking drive. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. And that's basically, he said it with a fucking straight face. So now, before any of that could happen, we had to go in and sign forms. And this is where I think I was asked to leave. They wanted me to sign an agreement that if I liked the price they told me, that I would be agreeing to buy the car. And I said, well, you're not even letting me drive the fucking car that I'm getting a price for. And Mrs. Comic knows I'm not making any of this shit up. This fucking sounds made up, but it is not fucking made up. And so I'm a dumbass. I said this. I need to drive the car and hear the price that matches up to the car. And then tomorrow, I'll come back and I'll drive the other car and get a price that matches up to that car. And then they were getting really pissed off at me. And he said, are you going to sign this thing or not? And I said, I'd be happy to sign it. But with one condition, I want to be able to list the price right now that I agree to pay. If I agree to buy this fucking car at my price, I will fucking sign this. And they agreed to that. And I wrote down $1. And he said, what kind of foolishness is this? I'm just fucking playing along. You want me to drive a fucking car and give me a price on a car that I'm not fucking driving, and then give me a price on that car tomorrow after I drive this one. So they didn't really ask me to leave, but it was implied that we had worn out our welcome there. So there was that. So that led us down the road to the Volkswagen dealer, and also during this time period, there was Kia had just come out, and I love my wife like nobody's business, and she's sweet and feminine, and but she's also really fucking strong, and her way about her is very forceful in the world. I'd love to open doors for her, but she can definitely open her own door. And sometimes she opens doors for me that are too heavy for me to open. And so when we opened the Kia car door, I watched her face, and when I was opening one side, she was opening the other, and I said, this car would only last you getting in it like 5 times before you rip that fucking door off. So the Kia actually wasn't going to be strong enough for any of us. That was just an example. And later on, to prove a point, Mrs. Comic and our daughter came laughing out of the ladies' room at the movies because Mrs. Comic actually opened up a bathroom stall and ripped the bathroom stall door off. I'm not making any of this up, Richter. And she just left it on the floor, and then we went. I think they had to pick out a different stall. I think it might have happened after. I don't know. So that was kind of sort of mildly involved in the car buying process. Um, and then we had another car. Let's see, Dodge 024, which is basically an Omni, and apparently it was a problem. Similar kind of problem. The door handles is it, that you crank the windows up with, they broke a lot, and the little metal thing outside broke a lot because apparently there's a lot of strong people in the world like Mrs. Comic who open doors forcefully, and the things just fucking snap off. And they say, "Oh, you can just go get a handle at the junkyard." You couldn't, because everybody who snapped off a fucking handle went into the junkyard and bought the fucking handles for this thing. So I had an audition in New York City at Comic Strip Live that I was really fucking nervous about, and I took this Dodge Omni up there, and I couldn't get back into it. Actually couldn't get out of it because the handles were broke inside and out. So it was my big New York audition, and I got street parking in front of a fucking nightclub, a block away from the comedy club, and I had to crawl into the back seat and then crawl out of the over the little hump for the way back thing, and then flick open. Somehow it had a thing that opened the, that was technology. It popped the back trunk open and crawl out of that thing and then close it. And it was New York. People thought I was doing performance art. So this story is completely unrelated, but I got there way too early, and I was no stranger to New York. So I thought I'll just enjoy walking around a teeny little bit. And so uh, there was these two real, it sounds racist, but there were two big, strong black bodyguards guarding a nightclub. And it was still daylight out. And there was a line to get in there. And they got a kick out of me. And they actually just took me in to, to piss off these people in line. And then I didn't have a beer or nothing, and I just fucking left. Somehow that was a gag. I don't know. But I was turning some fucking heads up there. And this goes to the heart of a bit that I still do in my show now and again. People rubberneck me and they wait. I have peripheral vision and they don't know that I can see them pointing when they're right there. And somehow they think when they talk, I can't hear them. And there was a restaurant, and it was packed on the sidewalk. You know, they had the outside dining and all that. And the, I walked past, and I heard somebody say, and it was like thugs in suits. And then one guy said, "Get a load of that. Now the Amish are even up here now yet." And I turned around and I said, "Fuck yeah, we're here to stay, buddy." And why I had the brass balls to say that was my two bodyguards from the nightclub were right fucking there, had my back. So this somehow is related to buying a car. I don't really know. So car stories were flying rampant this way and that. Mrs. Comic always insisted we get AAA, and we spring for the extra towing, which in our day, our daughter knew how to get really cheap Broadway show tickets, or there were lotteries. You go up there and you throw your name in a hat, and you pull it out, and you get $28 seats. So we went up a lot. I mean, we just went up a lot, a lot, a lot. And from our front door here to where we parked at the Port Authority in New York was 97 miles. And the AAA package that we had was free towing up to 100 miles. And the running joke from my show was basically some nights I'm too tired to drive home, so I just yank a spark plug, call AAA, and say, "Just don't try to fix it. My mechanic will go fucking nuts if he knows someone else was whoring around in this engine and didn't just tow us back," which they actually had to do one time, but not for that particular reason. So I didn't really want to talk about any of this stuff, but there you have it. There's my car stories. I actually have some notes for car stories here. Let's see, put this down here. I hope everybody's doing good. I hope you didn't slide on the manure. Let's see here. Oh boy, more fun car stories. Okay, now, Clee's sister, get ready. So here we go. So Clee was going to college at first Kutztown, and then go out and visit him and then he transferred to Tyler, which is Temple University School of Art, and I had already raved about how awesome Clee's parents were, like to leave it to Beaver. You, we took it upon ourselves to fucking try to piss them off. You understand? And we failed every fucking time. We fucking failed. College is not cheap, and Clee was the oldest of like at least 4 or 5 years. I don't know. That's a lot of fucking college. So when he wanted to transfer from Kutztown to Tyler, nothing would transfer. Everything he did at Kutztown, fucking gone. Most parents would not agree to this deal, but they did. And so I got to visit a lot of Clee's college friends, and of course, they would sometime make a trip to Emmaus. And on one particular occasion, a hippie girl that he liked came up, and she was riding around and she was cruising us around. It must have been like midnight. And if you're familiar with the area, only Clee's sister is, so this will make sense to her. Past the high school, Cedar Crest Boulevard has this ridiculous, dangerous slope to it. And then there's a road that goes down behind the tank farm. And to go on this road is a leap of faith. You have to basically steer off a fucking cliff and hope like hell the road is still fucking there. It's really frightening. And if you're on the other side of that thing, you hope like hell nobody's uh, coming to kill you. And that was what decided the driver from a not driver. This peckerhead could drive stick shift on that other side of that hill, to sit on the top of that hill and wait for your turn to come out and then do the clutch and fucking pull out of there. I could fucking do that shit. So now it's late, and then if you go past there, you hit farmland. I already talked about that Lichtenwalder's farm stand. So that goes right across into McCungy. It's dark. There's farmland, but we didn't go that way. We went Main Street in Emmaus, goes all the way up to fucking Shimersville, and right before you hit the Yakos neighborhood, there's one turn that turns right, and it goes straight back to that Tank Farm Road or whatever the fuck they call it, and it's dark. And Clee and I were floating. We were burning them, and we were having a good old time, and our driver was not. And she decided it would be fun to try to fucking freak us out. I'm a big fan of having Clee wear his heels down on his shoes for entertainment while we're driving, or pretending like the horn won't shut off. But no, college people sometimes are too smart for their own good. She decided to drive 70 miles an hour on a road that speed limit's 25 and it's completely dark. And she decided to turn the headlights off to scare the fuck out of us, completely unaware that the road come to a T. And when we hit that fucker, it seemed like the world actually exploded. It's the thunder from going from fucking 70 to nothing and total silence. The car fucking shut down, windshield broke, nothing happened to us. She was fucking crying. Somehow, with a marijuana mind, I convinced her, and it was actually somebody's front yard. Might have been Lichtenwalder's. I don't even know. Might have been the farmer guy. Yeah. Not that close to the road, because that was the ditch. Maybe 20, 30 yards back was the house right there, whose property it was. And she didn't want to do it, and I convinced her, you have to keep crying. And you have to go and knock on that door by yourself while the pothead hippies hide like cowards here in the car, and you cry and you tell them you had an accident and that your father is going to have this towed. Well, then she's there. My father, never mind if your fucking father can do it. I'm trying to keep us out of jail, for fuck's sake. You go and you cry at the door and you tell them, whoever the fuck you're going to tell them is going to come tomorrow and tow that thing out of there. You don't have to call the cops. We'll get it out the first thing in the morning. And it fucking works. And that, now that I come to think of it, I walked home from accidents in this town from two different directions because Clee rolled us over Fifth Street Mountain upside down, and we didn't get nothing wrong with us there. We walked down the mountain, and then this one out there, we also walked home from that one. So that was a Clee car adventure right there. I do have my notes here of pimped out gold PT Cruiser, boom roasted, Clee's hippie friend, turn off the headlights to scare us. That backfired big time. Let's see here. Thrown out of showrooms. There's that. Oh, and in the one showroom, the car dealers were getting pissed off at the time because the internet was invented. We had to be victims of whatever the car people told us on when the internet came out. Then there's Edmunds auto page, there's Kelly Blue Book, all this shit. They told you what you should pay for these cars, and they were really fucking assholes. These fucking salesmen, you'd go in and they'd say, well, you go to buy a refrigerator at Sears and go in with an internet price and then expect them to drop the price in there. Yeah, they price match. That's the whole fucking point. So he wasn't fully prepared for that. And I argued with that guy. That's before I got thrown out of that same exact showroom over there. And he said, well, here's what I remember saying. I was pissing and moaning with him. And I said, see, here's the thing. If you can sell me this car for $15,000 and you're going to try to sell it to me for $17,000, that's $2,000 of my money that I could keep. And then I know you get commission and all that. And he goes, well, how much commission do you think is fair for me to make on this car? And I said, $200. $200. I said, $200. You should not make one penny more than $200 fucking dollars to sell me a car. And that's pretty fucking good payday right there. Just to sell me a car for whatever fucking price it is. So again, we didn't really wind up getting a car from there. So there's that. And Mrs. Comic took our grown-up daughter, I think it was our doctor, Jothi, over to the Volkswagen place. But it was years and years and years and years later when my friend Scott in the Philippines, brother's friend, was no longer at that car place. And it was really a bunch of assholes, I guess it was. And I didn't go along because Mrs. Comic was having mother and daughter time. She was car shopping. And they walked on to the car lot of this car dealer that I loved up until this moment. And they came back and they were kind of like both in tears. I said, well, what the fuck happened? And Mrs. Comic said, we walked over to a salesman and he greeted us by saying, how much money do you have? What a fucking jerk off that is. So I'm sure she didn't buy a car from there. And if she did, we found the right person who wasn't a cocksucker. And then the other fun car buying story is we always had shitty cars. If you see, Rick, if you watch Twin Peaks season 3, Janie E has a smackdown with bullies because her husband has gambling debt on a playground. And she goes, we are the fucking 90% of people who drive fucking shitty, miserable cars and we won't be fucking pissed on. So we've always had those kind of shitty cars. And I made a terrible mistake, and I don't care if I badmouth them because they're not Rothrock anymore. We bought a used Volvo over there, and it was inspected and all that shit, and then we test drove it. Within like a day, it was so fucking loud. The muffler fell off and all that shit. And we just bought the fucking thing. So I went over there when they were really fucking busy, and I was pissed off, and they were trying to get me to leave. And I was showing him the paperwork, and he wouldn't even look at the car. I couldn't even get the guy to come out and look at the car. So on a fucking Friday night, with the showroom full of people who had actual money to buy real fucking new cars and shit, since they would not come out and look at my car that they fucking sold me, I backed the car right up to the showroom and I fucking went on the gas. And if you've ever heard a car without a muffler, it's a very loud thing. All heads in the showroom turned. I actually thought the glass was going to break. And suddenly, our salesman had time to come out and talk to me way over there when we drove the car far away from where people could fucking hear it. We got no satisfaction, but sometimes, what do they say? It's a squeaky dickhead that gets the wheel, or whatever the hell they say. It's a squeaky dickhead that gets the oil. I don't know. So then there's that. I have more fucking fun car stories. Before I could afford a decent car, I got out of a speeding ticket one time. Was a cop pulled me over, and he said, "Do you know how fast you're going?" I said, "Yes, I know exactly how fast I was going. Actually, I know how fast I was not going. I can't tell you specifically how fast I was going, but I cannot tell you exactly how fast I was going, but I can tell you the maximum amount of speed I could have possibly been driving is 55 miles an hour, and the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, so I don't care what your ray gun says." And he said, well, I clocked you at 65, and I'm there. Impossible, because as soon as this car goes over 55 miles an hour, the whole fucking thing rumbles. And that's how I know that I'm going over 55 miles an hour. And if the car starts rumbling, even I notice that. He laughed, and I did not get the ticket, which enters to my early years of stand-up comedy. I'm having fun with these car stories. Well, I had an agent back in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and cool shit happened to us, and he fucked me up the ass without Vaseline, which I didn't know till later on. And I had shitty cars, and we had not yet bought, that was it was before 1997, because we did not yet have the Volkswagen Golf. So, I had we had like two halfway decent used cars, and my agent got me a 1 year free lease on a pretty new Dodge Intrepid for doing some commercials for L&B Dodge, which I can also badmouth because they're not fucking open anymore. And so you have to understand something, that if you're used to driving cars that rumble at 55 miles an hour, there's and the Intrepid wasn't a big car, but it was like a mid-size. It's really difficult to notice that you're going fast. And I was full of piss and vinegar. I was going out across Pennsylvania, headed to Baltimore to do a guest set on a 98 Rock en route to a walk-on role in the Tim Allen, Kirstie Alley film For Richer or Poor. My head was fucking swelled up to the fucking nines. And I saw that I hit the, the cop's radar. I saw that I hit it, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and it was a speck. And that's how fucking fast I was going. I had lost the ability to distinguish objects that I was passing. So I slowed down to what I thought was a respectable speed, and I was still fucking doing 80, and the cop was still fucking trying to catch me. She wasn't even near me yet. She was still trying to fucking catch me. Something, fuck me in a bucket of goo. I'm having a fun trip, but I ain't even making any fucking money on this trip down here. This was like a bragging rights trip. So I'm like, that's all I fucking need is $200 fucking speeding ticket. So I had all my Amish drag on, and I took the car seat that I was sitting in, and I pushed it up as front over the steering wheel as I could. And I lowered the steering wheel, and I put my hat on, and I hung over the steering wheel like this, and and the cop was now next to me. He wasn't even behind me anymore. He was next to me, and I wouldn't fucking look at him. I did this, and he's over there, and actually over there, because I get mixed up with the right and left here, and I wasn't gonna fucking look up. and he thought I was the fucking old Amishman who was speeding accidentally, and that motherfucker did not pull me over, and I was smart enough to take the win and never try anything that fucking stupid ever again. So that was a fun thing there. Also, as I'm here with bourbon balls and crunks and having all kind of fun, I do not fucking drink at all when I go out. I am the designated driver of my family. Mrs. Comic can have wine. She can have a green apple martini in New York, or who's ever along, they can fucking party. I will not have a light beer 5 o'clock in the day, even though I'm driving home at fucking midnight. Occasionally, I'll have a whiskey at the theater, but for the most part, like, and they're watered down. But I just don't fucking drink any alcohol on the way back from these fucking trips. So I can drive with the best of them. So anytime I get pulled over, I know at least they're not gonna fucking get me for drunk driving. I know this to be true. So I'm coming out of one of my first headline gigs in Reading. I had billboards and all kinds of fun shit. And plus, I've done a lot of shows for cops, so I know all the shit not to do. I can help you out there. And when there's a sobriety checkpoint, one of the worst things you can do is turn off of it when you see it, because they know that you're going to do that. And there's cop cars planted waiting for whoever turns off. They know you're really fucking hammered. They know you have made a commitment to get the fuck out of there, so you are fucked in a bucket of goo. I wasn't drinking at all, so I didn't really give a fuck. So I pulled in, and then they ask you this, and they want to know your name and where you're going, and have you been drinking tonight, and if you answer stupid, then they make you pull over there. Once you pull over there, you're not totally fucked, but they're getting ready to fuck you, or you're getting ready to have a really, really fucking bad night. They told me to pull over there. I just started laughing. I'm like, I'll do it, but I don't I don't have a clue what you think. If you think I'm drunk, I'm this way all the time. I'm just, this is how I am now. You want me to take a blood test, a breathalyzer, whatever the fuck it is? I don't fucking care. I went over there, and he was really laughing. And then he got in his walkie-talkie, and he told all of the fucking 6'8" cops down around the corner and all this and that shit. He goes, "Hey guys, I got Raymond the Amish comic up here. If you want to come up here and get an autograph, I will take some pictures. I can only hold him for like 5 minutes before he figures out that we have no charges against him." And that's a true fucking story. It happened again later in our lives when a cop pulled me over. A tail light was out, and the cop was really nice to me. And I said, I didn't know the tail light was out. I really didn't. And I did say, it's actually a teeny little bit odd to get pulled over in the middle of the day for having a tail light out, like driving where there's a lot of traffic around. He goes, "I knew who you were. I just wanted to say hello. Thanks for scaring the fuck out of me, for crying out loud." So, celebrity and car shopping has its pluses and minuses here. I'm trying. Oh, here we go. All right. So now, to get the 1 year lease on the Dodge Intrepid, that was my pay. I wasn't getting any actual cash. And if you lease a car, basically it's $200 a month and $2,000 down. That's pretty standard in those days. I don't even know if you could do it for now. So I was basically getting a $249 lease for 1 year free. That was my pay. I had to write commercials for the Dodge dealership, and I had complained to them because they gave me some script on there. Well, this is just stupid shit. If you want me in these commercials, I should be allowed to write them so there's some comedy. So give me some bullet points. I will write 30-second commercials, and that's fucking tough to do something silly and have it be informative. And so I pitched them on the idea of a series of commercials for L&B Dodge. And the first one was going to be a teaser. The first one was just going to be me creeping around, an Amish guy creeping around a car dealership. And in Reading, people knew that was kind of weird. The Amish guy wouldn't be shopping. So I'm looking at cars. I wrote this. I'm looking at cars sneakily because I'm not supposed to be there. So that's what the scene was. I think I have these commercials somewhere. I got to figure out a way to show them to peckerheads. And that was the teaser. And at the end, I thought I was hiding, but I was in the showroom and I was hiding behind one of the Dodge Intrepid brochures. And the commercial ended with the salesman going, "May I help you?" And then I just lowered the thing, and then they saw my face, and I went, and and that was fucking it. So now the next one of the next commercials that I wrote was um, I don't know why the guy bought a whole bunch of conversion vans and they were no longer cool. And what I can tell you about conversion vans then, as far as these dealers were concerned, he would buy the van from the car dealer and that would get farmed out for the conversion. They did conversions didn't come from the car dealers, so they'd take like a $30,000 van and they pimp it out and push this thing into like $100,000 hippie whoremobile with fucking TV and beds and all kinds of fucking cool shit. They were awesome, but the people made those themselves. You didn't want them custom made. So he's gonna take a fucking pounding on these things, and so I was writing commercial for that is what he was trying to pitch, and I felt strongly about it because every car commercial that I saw, and even in showrooms and stuff, TV, billboards, they had a beautiful model with big knockers hanging out, just laying all over the car. And what actually pissed me off, and I just talked about it in my show, was see, guys, we're not that complex. If we're car shopping, we actually do not want to be distracted with knockers. We just don't. That's too fucking much. I'm focusing on the car. I don't want to get fucking cheated. Do not shove tits in my face because it will confuse me and I won't make a good car purchase decision. And conversely, when we want to see breasts, if you're over at the strip club, you don't want to be thinking about trying to buy a car. These are two different things. So my commercial was a mock at the car dealerships trying to use beautiful women to trick us dumbasses into going and giving them $30,000 for a car. So the commercial started with me in the showroom surrounded by cars. And I go, if you're the kind of people who need to have a beautiful, almost nude, sexy supermodel in the showroom to get you to come in here to buy a car, I don't want anything to do with you. And I fucking stormed down. And that was like the first 5 to 10 seconds of the commercial. And then the second part of the commercial, I was in drag. I had a dress on, Richter, and I had stockings and a bonnet, and I was laying in the back of one of these conversion vans, and the camera zoomed in on me, and I was looking. It went from my legs like the Joe Namath commercial with the legs, with the leg eggs, pantyhose. They went up Joe Namath's legs and to his head, and they said, if these can make my legs look this good, imagine what they can do for you. That was what the goof was there. But then the camera zoomed up on me with a bonnet, and I said, "Hey, is that a Dodge Ram in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?" And now, Channel 69 was the film crew. They form out their film crew, right? So I wrote these commercials. I submitted them to the car dealership, and they submitted them to the Channel 69 production team, which really had nothing to do with Channel 69, so just their production team. So they had to approve it. Channel 69, the film people, had to approve it. Commercial ran for 2 days, and all fucking hell broke loose. Channel 69 called them up and said, we gotta shut these fucking commercials down. We gotta shut them down. The phone's ringing off the hook. This is a disgrace. This is the most horrible thing that has ever happened to mankind. And then they called me into a meeting with the Channel 69 people, the car dealership, and my, at the time, agent busting my fucking balls. And I'm there. I wrote it. You guys approved it. You could have just said, no, this is too much. How is it approved, filmed, aired, and now suddenly it's my fucking fault? If it was this horrible, how comes nobody didn't know it was this fucking horrible before? And the car dealership guy, he was a classic car dealer. He was trying to get free shit. He had an idea that I would do a free show in his showroom to somehow fucking make it up to people. And Channel 69 guy was there. They were really upset. And they said, we have a serious situation here. One of the viewers said they were going to be writing a scathing letter to the president. And I laughed so fucking hard. I think I actually spit a Dr. Pepper. And he said, this is not a funny situation. We have some problems here and they need to be fixed. I said, I'm not laughing about that. It's just that the president at the time was Bill Clinton, and boy, did you write a letter to the wrong fucking president, because I happen to believe he would love to see an Amish guy in drag in the back of his fucking showroom here. So you peckerheads wrote the wrong thing going on there. So now, my show, I think, is pretty much over, but I'm going to finish with what the final thing is here, is that I had another one where I faked that that I didn't need to. I bought a car there and I didn't really need car keys. We were to hook up the horses to it and the reins and giddy up, and they actually pushed the car and we couldn't see the horses, and that's a fun one too. But the guy turned out to be a dick, and then he took a really nice uh, lease car and he gave us a fucking ugly piece of shit one that I think people smoked it in it or whatever, and I could see the writing on the wall that I was losing this. I wasn't going to get the second year lease, which really sucked because they made it seem like we were doing a 5-year deal. So I gave our 2 cars away to our children. So now we had no fucking car again. So my very good friend, who's no longer with us, Win the Barber, concocted this scheme. Here's the Win. Mrs. Comic, you have to help me remember to tell this story to Win the Barber's widow, Skip, because I don't think I've told her this one for a while. Okay. So he devised a plan by where he would drive me back to the car dealership to return the lease car to on the shitty car, but was still a car. And I basically would have no car. And instead of him dropping me off there, he would hide down the road like 3 blocks at the diner. And then I would go in and start crying and throwing temper tantrums in the showroom, which I did. And then I stormed out and I said, thanks a lot. You could have told me this. You know, we had 2 cars that weren't that great, but we gave them to our children. One's in Pittsburgh and one's down in fucking... so that's fine. Don't worry about me. I will just walk to my shows. It's not a fucking problem. I'll just walk to my shows. And I stormed down that fucking road. And I got in a gray Lincoln with my good friend Win the Barber. And that's my... I think that's my show for this week. I don't know how I could possibly beat that story. So we love yous. Thanks for tuning in. And that's pretty much it. Don't be a dick to people. And I think we'll be going Tuesday next week. I don't really know. I'm sure there's stories that I forgot. But anyway, let's see. One last car story, and then I'm going to end on this. So, I learned how to drive stick shift in a fast Camaro that was too dangerous for my pothead friend to be driving. And so, he just got this thing, and whatever the biggest engine in the world that can be, it could be in a Camaro. That's what was in this thing. This has nothing to do with riding, learning to ride stick shift. It's just that in those days, you had to go to New Jersey to get liquor if you weren't 21. So this is going back. I'm probably 19, 20 years old. We did our Jersey run, and 22, which was the only way to go, Richter. 78 didn't exist. That tells you how fucking old I am. Motherfucker, 78 wasn't even there yet. So 22, Route 22 was never more than 55 miles an hour. It was never more than 55 miles an hour. My pothead friend just got this car. We were coming back from Jersey. We had liquor in the car. We were too young to have liquor in the car. It wasn't open. I started to scream for him to slow down because we were. I looked at the speedometer. We were driving approximately 120 miles an hour on fucking 22, and there was no other cars. There weren't that many fucking cars in those days, and so I was just fucking screaming. I was screaming, slow down, brake. I was screaming, slow down, brake. I was screaming, slow down, brake. And he didn't hear shit because we probably were smoking dope. And then finally, when he would realize shit, then he himself would scream. And I'm screaming at him to slow down, and he started to slow down, and he screamed, Raymond, I'm going 120 miles an hour. I know. Slow the fuck down. Brake, brake, brake. Put your foot on the fucking brake. And then he slowed down to a more comfortable 80. And then we slowed down to like 55. And somehow I live to tell stories like that tonight. We love yous. Have a wonderful week. And like I say, don't be a dick to each other. Love you, peckerheads. Mrs. Comic, toast you. I toast you. I'm doing this now. I have no pictures ready or anything, but I'm going to do this. Let's see. Stream ending. Sign.